program that brings you all the important information you need to know about NAFDAC. The agency is saddled with the responsibility of safeguarding our health by ensuring that the foods, drugs, cosmetics, and medical equipment made available to us are safe and wholesome. Welcome to NAFDAC and Your Health. My name is Tosin Omolaja. Last week, we began our series on herbal medicine registration. Today, we bring you the concluding part. We began by clarifying the two stages of herbal medicine registration by NAFDAC. The first stage is the listing stage, where herbal medicines are vetted and analyzed to ensure that they are first of all safe to be consumed. This first stage doesn't verify if the herbal medicine can actually cure the ailment or disease that the producers claim it can cure. It only verifies that the medicine is not harmful. The second stage is the stage that verifies that herbal medicine can indeed cure the ailment and disease that the producer claim it can cure. This stage requires clinical trial.
NAFDAC has hundreds of listed herbal medicines for different disease states. But most of those herbal medicines are just listed. There was no stepping up to clinical trial, to efficacy, because what we do in NAFDAC is examine the safety, and then if it is safe, we list it for 2 years on a renewable cycle. But the efficacy of it, most of the herbal medicines have not gone through it. And this COVID pandemic has opened our eyes, has given us impetus in terms of moving some of the herbal medicines in our database to the efficacy level. The efficacy test includes clinical trial, includes going through a hospital, going through NAFDAC, but that is for efficacy.
The advent of COVID-19 have brought to light many herbal practitioners who claim to have herbal cure for the disease. However, for any herbal cure to be validated, such medicines or products must be subjected to clinical trial. So why don't these listed herbal medicines go through the scientific process that will verify their curative claims? One of the reasons why this gap exists is the lack of trust. Herbal medicine producers fear that their trade secret and herbal formulation could be stolen. So NAFDAC is bridging that gap.
What we are doing now in NAFDAC is to ensure that our herbalists and our researchers come together. We want to bridge the gap, increase the trust between the two, because as a researcher you cannot assume you can just get a plant material and make it yours. You have to recognize that the herbalist is the one that has the idea. But we are not used to intellectual property in our culture. That is what you know in your head, what your dad or your mom or grandfather, whatever, has told you that this works. That is intellectual property. How to now put intellectual property into a formal agreement that, okay, you have my intellectual property, you know about my intellectual property, but if you go outside our agreement, you may be sued. Until we come to that point of respecting each other's property or capability and not assuming that it's okay, I can use his ideas and whatnot. Until we come to that point, we will not have this trust. NAFDAC is serving as a linker. We help the two to come together. In fact, that's what the herbalists are saying. They want NAFDAC to be the one that will overlook things for us. Once we do this confidentiality agreement, they can start talking. And then we have a list of patent attorneys. And then we give it to the herbalist or the pairs, researcher and the herbalist now, to see which one they're going to choose, because NAFDAC doesn't choose. We are just guiding so that our own herbal medicines can be translated into products.
Formulating and signing a non-disclosure agreement protects the herbal medicine formulation from being proliferated during the process of clinical trial. NAFDAC and Yorels spoke via Zoom to one of such legal experts, helping to safeguard the intellectual property rights of herbal medicine practitioners. And she explains how this is done.
For the herbal practitioners, because they are smaller companies, some of them are startups, they don't have the same, let's say, resources that Coca-Cola will have to protect it. So I guess that's why they've come to NAFDAC to work with NAFDAC and talk to lawyers so that lawyers, people that are vast in this area of practice can tell them what you need to do, and you check it. There are milestones, so you don't just throw it out there. If you are an owner of something that has value, if you're in your house and you brought in 1 million naira into your house, and then you tell your steward, I have this money here, then you're giving him responsibility. He doesn't steal it because it's there. So if you're involving the scientist, anybody that has access to your trade secret, then you sign NDA with the person. So long as you have seen my trade secret, I need to protect it. And part of the protection is that I sign an agreement to give me the assurance that you will not sell it to the next available person. So it's your responsibility as an owner to make sure that you have these agreements, because without it, there is no way you make people to behave well. They might be having an agreement with you, everybody's happy, then they turn back. And in this time, these hard times, people are really strained. So people are looking for ways to make ends meet. So it's so easy to get somebody to sell the trade secret. So it's better to lock them down with this agreement.
In case of a breach, the law provides for the herbal medicine practitioner whose intellectual property has been stolen to be duly compensated.
If you have an NDA and you have conditions in the NDA, if you disclose my trade secret, and then you know the value of your trade secret. For instance, take Coca-Cola Company, what their trade secret is worth, and somebody discloses what they'll be getting. So you get exactly the same value of your trade secret. If you breach my agreement that is worth 1 billion naira, the court will give the judgment and you get everything that belongs to you, be houses, money, and close and have a lien on his account. So any money that comes in, But keep in mind that whatever agreement you're having with a third party, it's always good to do due diligence. You don't just go on and sign an agreement with a potential thief and then they steal it and you start crying. So I think you need to if you do proper due diligence, you know where this person is coming from, their DNA, everything about that person, you will know. So that's the first step to managing your trade secrets and managing your resources, because you are the person you are entrusting, the person you are engaging with, you know the person and what they can do. So just do your own bit, and the lawyer will help you ensure that you get all those documents and ready for court. Because when you go to court, it is what you have to present to the judge that will give you judgment. So make sure in your NDA you put everything that, so that, and with that, the courts will just rule based on that conditions and term of the agreement.
Beyond trusts and issues relating to intellectual property, funding is another factor that has limited the progression from the listing stage to clinical trial.
It's very tough for a practitioner who struggle to list, possibly if the practitioner is not a researcher at the same time that will do it in their institute or do it at their university, then the average practitioner may not have money for the clinical, the efficacy aspect of it. because some of them actually have to go to a researcher to get their toxicity, microbial content and all those things done before bringing to us. As a regulator, we have to repeat it to make sure that what is submitted is right. But funding is extremely important, and it has been an impediment in terms of moving up from the listed to the efficacy. The government, because of COVID, now realize that the health sector, hospital, pharmaceutical industry, that those sectors have been neglected, and the government is really warming up in terms of funding of pharmaceutical industry, strengthening their infrastructure, working with universities, working with NAFDAC, working with NIPRID, just to make sure that these agencies and institutions are strengthened. So the government, as we speak, is talking of funding some clinical trial or efficacy studies, especially for COVID-related products, because we are in the pandemic. And I'm a strong believer that we're going to get 1 or 2 products that can be used to manage COVID.
We'll take a short break now. NAFDAC and your health will be right back. Welcome back. If you are just joining in, you're watching NAFDAC and your health. What exactly is clinical trial?
Clinical trials are studies conducted in humans, to look at new ways to treat diseases. It could be for new drugs, it could be for new medicines, or for new combinations of medicines. It could be for even new surgical procedures, and it could also be to look at the use of old drugs, existing drugs, in treating new diseases like in COVID.
Clinical trial starts at what is called the preclinical trial stage, where animals are used to test the medicine for safety. When the clinical trial kicks off proper, it's done in 4 stages. Phase 0, where the drug is tested on 10 to 15 healthy subjects or participants. This is the stage that seeks to understand how the body processes the drug. Phase 1. Here, more patients or subjects are used. This can range between 10 to 30 volunteers. Phase 2. Much more subjects are administered, usually about 200 or more patients. Phase 3. At this stage, 300 or up to 1,000 patients are used to see if it is indeed efficacious and how different people react to the medicine. If this is successful, then it may be pronounced as efficacious. Phase 4. This is the post-registration stage, which is referred to as post-marketing stage, when thousands up to millions of patients are using the drug. For listed herbal medicines, NAFDAC expects the number of patients to be at least 250 to 350 patients for clinical trial or efficacy study.
When you are ready to conduct clinical trials, I assume if you've already come to NAFDAC to get your product listed, from that point, you feel you want to make a claim on your label, on a particular indication. You come to NAFDAC, then we'll guide you on how to do it. You can choose to have a meeting with the division. We call it pre-submission meeting. The aim of that pre-submission meeting is to guide you on how to formulate your protocol and the entire application process. Then it's an opportunity for you to ask for any question that you feel you need clarification. So after that one, you will now go ahead and formulate your protocol. And before you commence, we advise that you look for a competent person that can do that clinical trials for you. We call him principal investigator. Because for you to conduct a clinical trial, if you are the owner of the product, you are what we call sponsor. You are the one sponsoring the studies. So you look for an investigator who will do that job for you. So his responsibility is for him to go through the process, then collect all the data information for you, package it, analyze it, and give you the final data for you to submit to NAFDAC. So when you get this person who must be qualified by training, experience, and education, and must have a basic knowledge of that particular disease you want to study, want to do the trial upon, then he will develop a protocol for you. On our NAFDAC website, you will see a web page for clinical trials. Click on that web page, you will see NAFDAC clinical trial application form. Then you see clinical trial guidelines. If you open that page again, you will see all the guidelines that are for clinical trial listed down. You download it, you fill it, then you submit as soft. If you already done the protocol, filling the form will not be difficult for you. It's just the information we supply in the protocol that we extract to the form to submit to NAFDAC. When you get that protocol done, you take your protocol for ethical clearance, particularly in the institution where you do the study, because almost all the hospitals, all the research institutions, they have their ethical committees. So you take it to them, they will review it, they will look at the ethical science of it, then they will clear you, they will review it and give you clearance. Then after they clear you ethically, you will now come to NAFDAC with the same protocol. However, to reduce the timelines, we advise sponsors or applicants to submit at the same time to both ethics and to NAFDAC, so that that timeline will be shortened. So when NAFDAC does its own review, we'll look at the science of this protocol. We'll look at why you want to do the study. What are the endpoints? What are you trying to achieve? And then we'll look at how scientific your protocol is based on the study endpoints. If it's relevant, NAFDAC will now give you that approval to conduct your study. So when you receive the approval from NAFDAC, you go ahead to do your studies. Then in the course of doing your clinical trials, NAFDAC have the responsibility of doing what we call inspection. We call it good clinical practice inspection. So NAFDAC will be there wherever you are doing the study to inspect what you are doing. And the aim of this inspection is to make sure that you are complying with the protocol. That is the procedure that we approve for you. Secondly, to make sure that the well-being of those who are giving that information, as they call them patients or participants, is well preserved. Thirdly, to make sure that the data generated from these studies is credible. So all these things, when you do them in the course of your studies, you submit what we call progress report to NAFDAC, as well as what we call safety report. If there are any safety issues that you find out during the studies, particularly serious adverse events, you submit to them, you have to report to NAFDAC, this is what is happening. And what do we mean by serious adverse events? Maybe among those who are participating in your studies, if somebody gets ill to the extent that they take him to hospital, he's hospitalized, or somebody who maybe on the course of his coming to your studies had an accident, is life-threatening, we say those are serious adverse events. And if you get a lab report during the course of the study that is very much abnormal from the normal, you need to submit those information to NAFDAC. Then NAFDAC have the prerogative to come there to make sure they verify what causes that. Meanwhile, your principal investigator might have done what they call causality assessment to make sure that that particular event is not related to your study.
At the end of the trial, when the trial closes, they are supposed to notify NAFDAC that they have finished with the trial. They're also supposed to submit to us what we call a preliminary report, of that trial. And then at a later stage, they're supposed to give us a final report. That takes a bit of time because, the people who have carried out this process, we have to lock their data. They have to clean it out. They have to analyze the data, validate their processes, and then make a final submission on the outcome of the report to NAFDAC. Now, they submit it to Clinical Trials Division. We look at the report, study it. We bring in also a lot of experts to give their opinion on the outcome of the conduct. If it is satisfactory and there is enough evidence to establish that, yes, this drug or product can treat the disease, we now take that product to, for example, the company. We convey that approval, and then the company can now make a formal application to register the product.
It's time to bring our weekly roundup of NAFDAC activities on NAFDAC Update.
NAFDAC Borno clamps down on unregistered and expired Go-Fruit lemon sales outlet in Maiduguri. In a move to consolidate the significant gains made by NAFDAC in Borno State, following a series of all-round public enlightenment campaigns and advocacy engagements, which it had carried out across the nooks and crannies of the state. An intelligence tip-off received has recently led to the unearthing and seizure of unregistered and expired Go-Fruit lemon from a vendor in Pompomari Old Airport area of Maiduguri, following a swift action by undeterred team of NAFDAC regulatory officers led by the state coordinator, Mr. Nasiru Mato. Mr. Mato assured the public that the agency will continue to relentlessly sustain the tempo in the fight against substandard and unwholesome regulated products, while soliciting for deepened collaborative support from all well-meaning citizens, which is catalyst and key to achieving more. NAFDAC forges ahead with its regulatory oversight functions despite pandemic. Undeterred by the coronavirus pandemic, NAFDAC continues to support businesses operating within the regulated product sectors of the economy. One of such is a baby food manufacturing business that was being inspected by officers of the Food Safety and Applied Nutrition Directorate of the agency ahead of its kickoff of operations in Lagos. Members of the Food Safety and Applied Nutrition team took extra care by being properly protected. And according to the director of the Food Safety and Applied Nutrition Directorate of the agency, this will be the new normal for the agency as a whole, as the pandemic will not stop or limit its regulatory activities in order to ensure that the health of Nigerians is uncompromisingly safeguarded, and also that the economy continues to function properly. That's it on NAFDAC Update. You've been updated.
Here is where we draw the curtains on Herbal Medicine series of the program. Please join us same time, same station next week for a fresh edition. In the meantime, if you have comments, complaints, or you want to report activities of fake drugs or adulterated food product peddlers, our doors are always open. You can reach NAFDAC via toll-free numbers. For inquiries, call 0700 162 3322. For complaints, please call 0800 162 3322 or email nafdac@nafdac.gov.ng. Importing, producing, distributing, and selling fake drugs and cosmetics, adulterated food, and so on are criminal activities that destroy lives. Join the fight against these heinous crimes by reporting any suspicious activity in your area to NAFDAC. Let's join hands to safeguard the health of our nation. Till next week, stay safe.